if just to provide you with some information, we will now be recording the meeting at this point. And certainly welcome to everyone who's on today. Board members, staff, guests, and members of the public are advised that the St. Clair Region Conservation Authority board meetings are being video and audio recorded and will be posted to the authority's Facebook and website along with the official written minutes. As such, comments and opinions expressed may be published, and any comments expressed by individual board members or guests are their own and do not represent the opinions or comments of the full authority or the board of directors of the St. Clair Region Conservation Authority. The recorded video of the full authority meeting is not considered the official record of that meeting. The official record of the authority meeting shall consist solely of the minutes approved by the board of directors. All mics should now be muted, and all individuals who are not participating board members should turn off your video if possible to make things a little bit easier and improve the stability. The chair will be asking for opposition only on items of business. If you oppose, please raise your hand until the chair acknowledges you, or use the chat function. Our preference is that you physically raise your hand to communicate where possible, and please leave your hand raised until you are acknowledged. If you experience any technical difficulties during the meeting, please contact Chris Durand at 519-245-3710, extension 230. And if you have to leave a message, Chris is monitoring those pretty closely and he will get right back to you. I think that's all I had, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Brian. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today at our first ever virtual annual general meeting. It's hard to believe that just 1 year ago, we were gathered together in forest at our 2020 AGM, likely one of the last events we all attended prior to the new normal we have been living with this past year. Last year has been one of the most challenging and unprecedented years in our history. The COVID-19 pandemic required us to significantly change the way we communicate, interact, and conduct business to ensure the health and safety of our communities, families, staff, and board members. I want to thank our staff and the board for their resilience, perseverance during this difficult time, and especially acknowledge the hard work of our IT department in creating virtual spaces for our staff to work effectively and safely from home. Our staff showed tremendous innovation and creativity to maintain our services and connect with our watershed communities. And despite all obstacles, 2020 was a very successful year. Our water course team continued to provide essential flood forecasting and monitoring services. 69 flood bulletins were issued during 31 flood events, and the McHugh Dam was operated twice to protect the town of Wellsburg from severe flooding. We planted over 50,000 trees throughout our watershed. Progress was made in completing shoreline protection projects along the St. Clair River and Lake Huron. Our biology department carried on with important monitoring work. Over 8,000 fish and 1,600 mussels were collected, identified, recorded, and released, thanks to their hard work. Our education staff created innovative and exciting new programs in response to school closures and COVID-19 school restrictions. The programs were not only successful, but welcomed by educators, parents, and students alike. And despite the reduction in campsite availability required to keep our staff and volunteers safe, our campgrounds were fully booked throughout the summer, and staff organized new family-friendly activities for our guests to enjoy that followed COVID-19 guidelines. Throughout the pandemic, traffic at our conservation areas increased significantly. which speaks to our need for safe outdoor spaces to enjoy. Unlike other conservation authorities in the province, we were able to keep these areas open due to the public's thanks in cooperation for our visitors in following COVID-19 protocols. Our accomplishments this year would not have been possible without the support, patience, and understanding of our local communities and our partners. As we enter 2021, we will continue to provide watershed services in new and creative ways. I want to thank our board of directors, our foundation, and staff for their hard work over the past year and all that they have done to ensure the future success of our organization. This time, I'd like to welcome Sandra Marshall. She's one of our Conservation Authority recipients. So, Sandra, we welcome you to our meeting today. Thank you. Ashley, would you do a roll call, please?
Yes, I can. John Brennan.
I am here.
Al Broad. I don't see Al yet. Pat Brown.
Present.
Andy Brunswick.
Present.
Terry Burrell.
Present.
Joe Foss.
Present.
Larry Gordon.
Present.
Aaron Hall.
Here.
Frank Kennis.
Present.
Brad Loosely.
Present.
Betty Ann McKinnon.
Present.
Kevin Marriott.
Present.
Nettie McEwen.
Present.
Thank you. Mark McGill has sent his regrets. Dan McMillan.
Present.
Steve Miller.
Present.
Frank Nemchek.
Here.
Lori Scott. Lori Scott. I don't see Lori. Mike Stark.
Present.
Thank you. Jerry Westgate. Jerry Westgate.
I think you're muted, Jerry.
Jerry, can I get you to unmute?
I think he is unmuted, but we're not hearing you, Jerry.
His computer must be shut off or volume turned down on his computer.
I see him now.
Okay.
Give you a wave.
Yeah. Okay, we do have a quorum, right, Ashley?
We do.
Okay, that's good. Okay. Can I have a mover and a seconder that the agenda for the annual general meeting be adopted? Is there any, okay, Andy and Aaron? Any opposed? Motion's carried. It is requested that each director declare a conflict of interest at the appropriate time on any item within this agenda, in that the director may have a pecuniary interest. I do have one, and on 16G, I believe it is. I have an application that was approved in that, so I'm not sure what the protocol for that is. Is that we need to pull that or anything? Ashley?
No, I wouldn't say so. You, as chair, you're not actively voting on any of the items, so I don't think we would have to pull that and have it voted on separately.
Okay, no, that's good. Okay, sounds good. Okay, can I have a mover and a seconder that the minutes of the Board of Directors meeting held December the 12th, 2020 be approved and distributed? Okay, Mike Stark and Steve Miller. Any questions on any of the items? Go ahead, Brad.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just as I mentioned to Ashley before, the letter that came in from the town of Petrolia that it was opposed, that wasn't listed in the minutes, came in after the meeting. So I'm sorry, I apologize for that, Ashley. Thanks.
Okay, that's good. Is there any other questions, comments? Is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, the motion's carried. I need a mover and a seconder that the minutes of the executive meeting held February the 11th, 2021 be approved as distributed. A mover, okay, Terry and Brad. Questions? Any opposed? Motion's carried. A mover and a seconder that the Board of Directors acknowledges the minutes of the December 14th, 2020 Conservation Ontario Council meeting. A mover and a seconder, please. Okay, Frank Nemchek and Terry Burrell. Is there any questions on those minutes? Is there anybody opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. Okay, I need a mover and a seconder that the St. Clair Region Conservation Authority accepts the recommendations of the Executive Committee and report from the authority's auditors, MNP Chartered Professional Accountant, LLP, and further approves the 2020 audited financial statements. A mover, Kevin, and Andy, seconder, or sorry, any questions? Anybody opposed? Oh, sorry, Pat, you had a question?
I just didn't see that in the online version I received. Maybe I was missing this. Is there a reference on that page number of for that 7 point whatever?
I think if you click on it on the agenda, you should be able to pop it up.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Terry, go ahead.
Yes, I get the printed agenda and I did not get a copy, and I went online to look at them and it wasn't there either. Now I did see it because we did get the at the minute when we had the executive meeting there, we saw the preliminary, not the finals, but the preliminaries. I saw it there, but I did not see it in the package anywhere for the members.
Okay.
Ashley, just as far as where it is online, can, with everybody, unfortunately, some of you with looking at one screen are going to have to flip off to have a look for it. But can you just point that out, Ashley, so that everybody's aware?
I'm going to go online and just check and see if there's any issue there. Just give me a moment and I will look.
Okay. While we're doing that, is there anyone else have comments or questions on the audited report? Okay.
Well, maybe while Ashley is doing that, Tracy, do you want to introduce our auditors to the board and so that we can recognize them if we either have more questions or just to thank them? And I guess could you guys turn on your video as well?
So I'd like to introduce Ashley and Jordan again this year. This is our second year with MNP, and our growing pains seem to be settling, I think, with lots of understanding between the two of us. And so it's been great working with them the last 2 years. They bring a different perspective. So I'd just like to introduce them as our auditors. And I believe Ashley will do any presentation that's required or needed in regards to walking through the statements. Also note that the statement draft is still in draft coming to this board until it's approved.
Is there any questions for the auditors or comments?
How'd you make out, Ashley? We can see your lips moving, but you're on mute.
Sorry about that. I'm on 100 different screens right now, so I do apologize. It appears that there is an error online. I'm very sorry. It has not been hyperlinked, so I'm working on getting that up right now. It will just take me a few moments.
Okay.
My apologies.
Ashley, is this a document we could just do a screen share if it's something that I can see from here?
Sorry to interject. Yes, Chris, I could probably send it to you very quickly. Okay. Just give me a moment to find it.
That would be great. Thank you, Tracy.
Mr. Chair, with this error and members not having an opportunity to review it due to technical issues, is this something, my preference would be that we deal with it, of course, at this meeting, but I certainly don't want you to not have an opportunity to review it. We could have Ashley take us through a similar presentation to what we had with the executive committee, and that would give the board an opportunity to see and better understand the numbers if that's if that works for the board.
Okay, I have Mike wanting to speak, so I'll put him on first. And go ahead, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't agree with that premise. It seems to me that one of the issues, this represents a total year's activity. And if we have not had the opportunity to review it, I'm not suggesting that there would be anything amiss. What I am saying is one of our responsibilities as a board is to deal with the financial obligations and responsibilities for the entire year past. So I have a real problem with not having had full access to the audited report. And quite frankly, this should be tabled until such time as the report is available, and at which point a special meeting could be called. I recognize that it is the annual meeting, but this is one of our main responsibilities, and to suggest that we would have a screen share version of that, in my view, is not acceptable.
Did you want to make that a motion, Mike, that we table it to a further meeting?
I'll move that we table the financial report for the past year to a special meeting to be called by the chair.
Is there a seconder for that motion? Okay, John, is there any questions, comments regarding that? Is there anyone opposed to that? I see no. Brian, did you want to comment?
Just want to put forward our apologies to staff. That was not the intention at all, and we apologize for having to bring you back together to review it at a later date. But I certainly agree with Mr. Stark that this is a huge portion of the responsibility, and I completely understand the need to have an opportunity to not only review it but understand it, and not having advance copy of said is certainly an issue.
No, that's good. Anyway, I see no opposition, so the motion's carried. And we'll try and do that as soon as we can. I'm not sure there's a time frame to have that completed. Is there, Ashley or Tracy?
Technically, through you, Mr. Chair, technically we are supposed to have it approved by the end of our AGM, but understanding the technical difficulties, I'm sure that we can beg forgiveness.
Okay, okay. We'll try and do that as soon as possible then, and we'll get that notice out. And then everyone will get a copy of that prior to that meeting so that they can review it in advance. So, okay, thank you. Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, go ahead. Sorry, Terry. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, I don't know if it helps any. It was approved by the executive group, so I don't know if that'll help the technical necessities that we have. Maybe Brian might know more on that, but if there is any technical need to have it done by the end of the, we did approve it at the executive meeting.
Yeah, that's right. We did. Yeah, no, that's good. So,
I think at this point, the understanding that we did have full support at the executive with unanimous support, but I do believe that certainly there's it's a major concern from my perspective for you not to have an opportunity to consume the document. So I do think we should give you that opportunity, and even if we have to, as Tracy said, beg forgiveness as to what the traditional policy would be on getting them approved.
okay, thanks, Brian. We're all set with everything then until we get together, I guess, to discuss that item. So, very good. Thank you. One of the real pleasures of our annual general meeting is the opportunity to recognize members of the community who have made a contribution to conservation in our region. I would like to call on Larry Gordon, our Vice Chair, to acknowledge our Conservation Award recipients. Larry, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman Joe. Each year, as you mentioned, the Conservation Authority presents these awards to deserving individuals and groups who've contributed to the environmental health of our region. This year, we have 3 deserving award recipients, Walter and Mary Petrischuk and Sandra Marshall. As with everything this year, the presentation of these awards was a little different given the COVID-19 pandemic situation. But however, Donna Blue, our Manager of Communications, and I were able to meet with our award winners this past week to personally present them with their awards and congratulate them on behalf of the board. Although they were unable to join us today, we want to acknowledge the efforts of Walter and Mary Petrischuk to naturalize their bonus property just outside of Forest. In 1978, the Petrischuk's purchased a parcel of land on Hillsborough Road, just outside of Forest, and offer an occasional retreat from their urban lifestyle. They were living in Sarnia City. So for over 40 years, they've cared for and enhanced the 16-acre, 40-acre parcel of property that houses steep ravines that lead down to Hickory Creek. Over the years, Walter and Mary have made many improvements to the property, including the planting of some 500 trees, the creation of trails, and the establishment of tall grass prairie. They are members of the Carolinian Canada Coalition, a network of individuals and organizations committed to maintaining healthy landscapes to conserve and protect Canada's Carolinian zone. As a result of their membership in Carolinian Habitat Action Plan was created for this property that outlines how the land will be managed to enhance wildlife habitat. The dedication of Walter and Mary have demonstrated in protecting and restoring this property is, to say the least, admirable. They continue to let the site regenerate naturally and have already discussed the future of the property with their family members to ensure that it continues to be protected and enjoyed for years to come. And I can tell you that when I met with Walter and Mary Petrischuk last week, I can honestly say they were truly touched by the recognition and wanted me to convey their appreciation to the entire board. Our first recipients for this year, Mary and Walter Petrischuk. Congratulations. And we do a round of applause or whatever in this situation. Thank you, everybody. Our next Conservation Award winner is Sandra Marshall. I'll call her Sandy. I've known Sandy for some time and her family. Sandy is an active advocate and participant in the fight against the invasive species Phragmite australis in the Ipperwash Beach region. She is a member of the Ipperwash Frag Fighters community group who work to eradicate stands of Phragmites in their region and educate others on the environmental, social, and recreational impacts Phragmites has on the local community and ecosystem. Sandy's always willing to help other communities tackle Phragmites in their jurisdictions and attended the Lambton County Phragmites Partnership Workshop held in October 2018 to share the experiences with our organizations around the area. When she is not fighting frag, we can find Sandy walking along the beach in Ipperwash almost daily, picking up trash left by other users. Sandy also often attends the Ipperwash Beach Shoreline Cleanup event organized each September by the Conservation Authority. Without the dedication and passion of individuals like Sandra Marshall, the establishment of Phragmites would be much more severe than it is today in the Lambton Shores region in particular. Described by her nominator, Laurie Scott, as a self-starter, you can be sure that Sandy will continue her fight in erasing this invasive species from the landscape and promoting clean and healthy beaches for many years to come. And as you've seen on the screen, I was able to meet with Sandy earlier this week and present her with her award. And we're fortunate to have Sandy in our midst today, signing on in our Zoom meeting. And Sandy, if you can unmute and bring your video up, maybe with the help of Chris if needed, we'd like to hear a few remarks.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you so very, very, very much for this award. It was quite a shock and a really pleasant way to start the 2021 after a year of COVID. And just to let the board members know that our work together with the St. Clair Region Conservation Authority began way back in 2016. Without you as a partner, I wouldn't have been able to get this award. We started working on the beach with Phragmites and sweet white clover, and you, the St. Clair Region Conservation Authority, provided staff, equipment, supplies, summer students for a number of years for this. And you've still continued all through those years right into 2019 when we began in the swale. So I really would like to thank Director Laurie Scott for putting my name forward for this nomination, and for Donna Blue and for Larry Gordon for coming out on that really snowy day to make it a really personal presentation, especially with our history, Larry. It was really nice that you were the one that was there. And we did follow COVID protocols. That was great. But I'd also really like to thank Steve Shaw and Jessica Vanswell and all of the board for the support and recognition, and for this really great pat on the back. It's sort of nice to receive some really good news in this this time. So thank you so very, very much.
Well, thank you, Sandy. And you're quite, we get the round of applause. I know some of us are on mute, but you get the impression that.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you again, and you're quite welcome to stay for the balance of our meeting. However, we recognize that you may have other appointments, and feel free to make your choice there. Again, congratulations to all our Conservation Award winners for this year.
Natty, you had a comment? Go ahead.
Yes, I do. Mary, notice that I was saying Mary and Walter. Larry said Walter and Mary, but Mary's a very important part, and I like to put her first. Anyway, I just want to congratulate them on, because they own property in Plimpton, Wyoming, and we're very pleased and proud to have them as property owners. And congratulations. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Natty.
Okay, is there any other comments or questions anyone has? Okay, thank you very much, Larry, and congratulations to you, Sandy, and also congratulations to Mary and Walter for their contribution to our conservation in our areas. So much appreciated, and I'm glad you were able to join us today as well, Sandra. Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation. Bye.
No problem. Okay, can I have a mover and a seconder that the Board of Directors congratulate the 2020 Conservation Award winners and thank them for their contributions to conservation? Mover Betty Ann and Natty. Questions? Any opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. Okay. We'll do service awards now. The greatest strength of our authority is the dedicated people who have either made conservation their career or who have served on the Board of Directors providing leadership and direction. At the St. Clair Region Conservation Authority, we are very fortunate to have so many of these people with us for so many years, whether it is a board member, full-time or part-time employee. Either dedicated to the region is, your dedication to the region is truly appreciated. Today, we would like to acknowledge the following staff and directors and thank them for their commitment and dedication to the authority. We have 2 5-year recipients and Sarah Hotchkiss, planning ecologist. Is Sarah with us today? I don't think she's with us, is she? And okay, and Greg Wilcox, manager of conservation lands. Is Greg with us?
Yes.
Okay, I guess Greg's here. Congratulations, Greg, for your 5 years, and we look forward to many more years. Thank you very much. 10 years service, we have one, and that's Mary Ann Neuenheiser, Assistant Superintendent at A.W. Campbell Conservation Area. Is Mary Ann with us?
I don't believe so, Mr. Chair.
Okay, okay. And then we have 1 15-year service, Steve Miller from the Township of St. Clair. Congratulations, Steve. And we have a 30-year service, and that's Brian McDougall, General Manager. Congratulations, Brian. Congratulations, all the recipients.
Brian started very young.
Yeah, he must have. Okay. Is there any comments or questions from anyone regarding that? Can I have a mover and a seconder then that the Board of Directors acknowledges the service awards presented to the directors and staff, and further that they be thanked for their years of dedicated service? Any questions? A mover and a seconder is Pat and Kevin. Any questions? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. Okay, that concludes the 2020 business.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
If I may, before we take the break and flip the calendar here, I'd like to call on the board to recognize Andy Bruzewitz, one of the City of Sarnia's dedicated representatives, instrumental in moving the Conservation Authority initiatives forward over a number of years. Served as chair back in 2010 to 2013. This will be Andy's final meeting this term. Thank you, and we wish you well, Andy. We'll see you around town.
Thanks, Larry. Congratulations, Andy. And you're probably going to be missed as long as I've been here. I think you were a staple around here as well. So hopefully we can keep in touch somehow. So best wishes to you. And I guess at this time, we'd also like to welcome Bill Dennis, who will be joining us as a representative from the City of Sarnia. Welcome, Bill, and we look forward to working with you. Are you on, Bill? Are you here?
Yes, sir, I am. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to working with everyone as well. Thank you.
Okay, well, we're looking forward to working with you for sure, and welcome aboard. You'll find us to be a reasonable group, I think.
You bet. Thank you very much. I sincerely appreciate it. Thank you.
No, that's good. Yeah. Okay. Okay, at this time, mover and a seconder that the Board of Directors acknowledge and complies with the St. Clair Region Conservation Authority's Code of Conduct and Administrative Bylaws. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Okay, Jerry Westgate and Mike. Questions? Any opposed? Terry, go ahead, sorry.
Yes, are we supposed to each sign this, I understand? And what do we mail it into you or whatever?
Ashley, can you help me out on that?
That would be great if you could.
Okay. Okay, I don't see Bill Dennis. Is your video off, Bill, or?
I don't think so.
I'm not.
There you
Oh,
go.
there we go. Okay,
Yeah, there we
that's
go.
good. Yeah, you
Yeah,
want to
thank
see
you.
everybody, I guess. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, very
yeah.
good.
You're welcome.
Okay. Is there any opposed? I see no opposition, so the motion's carried. Okay, at this time, a mover and a seconder that Brian McDougall be appointed chair for the election of the 2021 chair and vice chair. Have a mover. Okay, Frank Nemchek and Pat Brown. Okay, any opposed? Motion is carried. Go ahead, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this point, I declare the positions of chair and vice chair vacant. Can I have a mover and a seconder for a motion to have Chris Durand and Donna Blue act as scrutineers in the event of an election? Brad and Terry. Thank you very much. Does anyone oppose? Great. We will now open the floor for nominations for chair. Yes, Larry?
I'll nominate Joe Foz.
I'll second that.
Do I have any further nominations? And a final time, do I have any further nominations for chair? Can I have a mover and seconder to that nominations for chair be closed?
I'll move that.
Betty Ann and Nettie. Is there any opposition? Thank you, that's carried. Joe, do you wish to stand as the chairperson for the Conservation Authority for 2021?
I would be honored to. Thank you, Brian.
Excellent, that's great. Therefore, I would declare that Joe Foz will be our chair for 2021. If we will move forward, yes. Further, let's open the floor for nominations for vice chair. Al?
Yeah, I'd like to move that Larry Gordon for vice chair.
A second.
Are there any further nominations for vice chair? And for a third and final time, any further nominations for vice chair? Thank you very much. May I have a mover and seconder to close nominations for the position of vice chair? Dan and Steve? Are there any who oppose? Thank you very much. That's carried. Larry, do you wish to stand for the position of vice chair for the Conservation Authority for 2021?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And I would declare that Larry is our vice chair for 2021.
Thank you. And Mr. Chair, if I might just comment, anybody that knows me knows that I can't pass up an opportunity to talk. But thank you for the confidence today. To say that these are challenging days for the authority would be at best an understatement. However, I continue to be impressed with the dedication and valued accomplishments of our proficient staff members in getting us through this. It's been a challenge. It's been my pleasure to work with all of you on the board and appreciate the opportunity to continue to do so in the months ahead. Thank you again.
Mr. Chair, as well, I would like to thank the support and trust that each one of you have in me in fulfilling the position of chair. I think I, like Larry, have had high respect for each member of the board, high respect for each member of the staff in doing their duties. And it's been a pleasure, even though with difficult circumstances in a lot of cases, has been a pleasure to serve you and I look forward to serving you in the year to come. And hopefully we can continue on in a positive vein in dealing with the issues that we need to face and deal with. So thank you very much. I look forward to working with each and every one of you. Thank you. Okay. Okay, I guess, Larry, I'll turn it over to you again as the nominating chair of the nominating committee. Would you like to do your report?
I would. I'm pleased to present the information from our nominating committee meeting, which was Zoom, of course, back on the 11th of February. I can tell you that the Low Water Response Committee will be comprised of Terry Burrell, Mark McGill, and Aaron Hall. The Executive Committee, Terry Burrell, Frank Kennis, Betty Ann McKinnon, Steve Miller, Brad Loosely, Mark McGill. My name appears in there, and since the chair and the vice chair sit on that committee, Mr. Chair, you may have some chores to perform once I'm completed through this report. We will need another member for the executive committee. Flood Action Committee, Joe Foz, director from Chatham-Kent representing Dresden, Aaron Hall, director from Chatham-Kent representing Wallaceburg, Steve Miller or Pat Brown, director from St. Clair Township. Western Fair Association, Frank Kennis and Betty Ann McKinnon will continue to serve. Thank you. Watershed Management Plan Committee, Steve Biller, non-point source, and Terry Burrell, the point source. Planning Policy Procedural Manual and Technical Guidelines Committee, John Brennan, Terry Burrell, Pat Brown, and Betty Ann McKinnon. Of course, the chair and the vice chair sit on that committee as well. Back to you, Chairman Joe.
Thank you, Larry. We need one person, as Larry mentioned, in the executive committee. Is there anyone that would like to put their name forward, or does someone want to nominate someone for that position? Is there a protocol as a balance, Brian, as to regions on that?
No, there is not.
Okay, okay. So I guess looking for a volunteer. Terry, go ahead.
I haven't discussed it with him, but I would nominate Mike Stark.
Okay, Mike, are you interested in that position?
Yes, I am.
Okay, is there anyone else that's interested in that position? I guess I don't see any Mike, so I guess we'll volunteer you to sit on that committee then. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I need a mover and a seconder then that the St. Clair Region Conservation Authority adopts the 2021 Nominating Committee's report. Mover and a seconder, please. Okay, Terry and Kevin, questions? Any opposed? The motion's carried. Okay, a mover and a seconder that the 2020 Executive Committee for the St. Clair Region Conservation Authority will be the chair, Joe Foz, vice chair, Larry Gordon, Terry Burrell, Frank Kennis, Brad Loosely, Betty Ann McKinnon, Mark McGill, Steve Miller, and Mike Starks. A mover and a seconder, please. Okay, it's Bill Dennis and seconder, Betty Ann McKinnon. Any opposed? The motion's carried. Thank you. Okay, I need a mover and a seconder that the authority chair and vice chair and general manager, secretary treasurer, or director of finance be authorized to borrow from Libro Credit Union Strathroy for the general operations and capital programs of the authority in the sum not to exceed $2,967,098 to be repaid from grants received from the province of Ontario, Government of Canada, levies assessed to the member municipalities, and general revenue. A mover and a seconder, please. Okay, Aaron and Terry. Brian, you had a comment?
Maybe only for Councillor Dennis's information. This is a requirement for us to have a borrowing motion like this within, it's actually right within our act. So we have to do this, and basically the number is comprised of the provincial grants that we receive, as well as grants from the province, the federal government, and our member municipalities. So it will always be a number that balances out with those. Those are understood to be coming in, so that's why that number is put in there. We have not borrowed, at least in the last 25 years, we haven't borrowed any money in advance. So it's really semantics, but it is a necessary motion for us to go through at each annual general meeting.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Is there any opposed to the motion? Seeing none, the motion's carried. I need a mover and a seconder that the MNP Chartered Professional Accountants LLP be appointed auditors for the St. Clair Region Conservation Authority for the year 2021. Steve Miller, seconder. Brad, any questions? Any opposed? Motion's carried. I need a mover and a seconder that the authority's 2021 representatives to the Conservation Ontario will be authority chair. The vice chair will be the first alternate, and the general manager will be the second alternate. L and Frank Nepchek. Any questions? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Okay. A mover and a seconder that the board of directors acknowledges the general manager's report dated February the 15th, 2021. A mover and a seconder, please. Okay, is John and seconder, please. Terry Burrell. Any questions, comments? Any opposed? Motion's carried. I need a mover and a seconder that the board of directors approves the consent agenda and endorses the recommendations accompanying these items 16.1A to 16.1M. Is there any items that anybody wants pulled? Mike, go ahead.
The only one that I would like pulled actually appears in 17. I'll hold off till then.
Okay. Al?
Yeah, thanks, Chairman Joe. 16.1B, there's reference in there to the Highland Land needing $80,000 of temporary fix. By approving them, are we approving the expenditure of $80,000 for a temporary fix?
Okay, why don't we deal with all the ones that are going to be pulled? We'll approve the other ones and then we'll deal with them separately. Brad, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think just to keep things and for your protection, if you've declared a conflict of interest on this and we're going to deal with them pretty well all together, maybe we could consider putting in our vice chair to basically look after item number 16 as a whole.
Okay, that's
Mr. Chair.
That works for me if that's okay. Larry, do you want to hand the consent agenda then?
I will. We'll go with 16 at this point. I'm hearing that you wish to pull some of the items out of this consent agenda. Are we looking at the Highland Land? That was, I'm sorry, Alan, what was that one? Was that B?
16.1B, it's mentioned in there.
So we can pull that out for discussion. Are there any other items under 16 that anyone wishes to pull out for further discussion?
Just commenting that my conflict of interest is on 16.1G. So
G.
Yes.
So noted. Thank you. We'll go to 16(1)B, and I'll turn it to Brian initially on the question whether the passage of this particular item will actually trigger the spending on that $80,000.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice. In particular, in this case, this is basically information only. We would be seeking your direct approval for an expenditure of anything like that. Certainly, I appreciate Mr. Broad's question because that is a bit confusing the way we've left it in there. We have actually gone back and had a recent meeting with the consultants and reviewed a few things with them that maybe they, not necessarily that we're taking them in a different direction, but we want to try and focus them a little bit. So that number might even come down a little bit, and we might, and then of course, we're looking at some long-term issues that are moving forward as well. So we will certainly be bringing back to you with any specific financial request for that project.
Mayor Broad, is that sufficient? Does that explain your question?
Yeah, thanks, Larry. And I presume that, Brian, there was never an intention that you were trying to put it over on us at all or anything. I just wanted to clarify that, that's all. So, but thank you for the clarification. I presume that's what it was, but it doesn't hurt to ask.
Absolutely.
I have a question before I move on to Mayor Loosely. Brian, would we expect something in this regard for our April meeting?
Absolutely, Mr. Vice, yes.
Okay. Brad Loosely?
Yeah, thank you, Vice Chair Larry. Just I'd like to make a comment on 16F if I could, whenever you're ready, please.
Yeah, go ahead. You're on. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay. Just, and I know we've commented on this before because of the mapping, but I'm still, if there's any way we can say, like, a lot of that in there, there's a couple in there like First Ave and Country View that states Enniskillen, when actually it's Petrolia. And it would, I just wondered if there's any way without a lot of work, actually state that it's in the town of Petrolia, not Enniskillen Township. Right now it shows in Enniskillen when in fact, some of those properties are in the town of Petrolia. And it's just a comment. If they can do that, great. If not, so be it. Thank you.
Brian, is that doable?
Without question, yes, it is. We will make sure that it's changed in the report so it's properly recorded in the minutes as well.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Mike Stark?
Thanks, Vice Chair Larry. I'd like to return to the Highland Land issue. When you're doing what you refer to as a longer term report, I would like to know the financial scope. I am particularly interested in, and you might be addressing this in your comments from earlier, the report identifies significant damage to almost all structural components of the facility, retaining walls, break walls, ramps, etc. I have made the comment in the past that I was concerned that this particular project could balloon into millions of dollars, as evident by the situation in Sarnia Bay Marina, where we in fact did end up mushrooming the costs, one would argue out of control. That is why I voted against the proposal in its initial stage, and why I will continue to vote against it, because I believe unless we get a firm handle on what the magnitude of these expenses are, we have no idea where we're going. And even in the event of spending $80,000, to me, that implies that we're moving down that road. And I am absolutely opposed to that. Thank you. So I'm looking for, within the body of your report, a identification of the global costs that are involved here.
Brian, would that be possible in April?
Without question, yes. We will include not only what that potential short-term cost, that what's it going to cost to get it up and running for 2021, even if it's not, in time for, the first fishing derby or whatever, and as well as what the longer term would be to make it a sustainable project. And we will make sure that you get both of those, and potentially, you know, how one would work towards the other as well, if it happens to be a phased type of thing as well.
All right. Brad Loosely.
Thank you, Vice Chair Larry. Just to echo that, first of all, thank you for that, Brian. And I also want to state, as Mike brought up too, I have major concerns regarding the conservation's involvement in that and the amount of dollars too. So I look forward to the report. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any other items anyone wishes to pull from the item 16? I don't have everybody on my little screen here, so if you could speak up. Hearing none, I'll move for the approval of the agenda item 16 and its various components. Any opposition to that? So moved. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Larry. I need a mover and a seconder that the Board of Directors acknowledges the report dated January the 26th, 2021 on the camping season and fee modifications in the event of an altered seasonal camping season, and further approves the fee adjustments formulated proposed for the 2021 in the event that seasonal camping season is altered due to COVID-19, approving up to 2-week extension to the camping season, and also further approving the full refund of daily camping fees when staff deem appropriate. Mover and a seconder, please. Steve and Dan, is there any questions? Are there any opposed? That motion's carried. That the Board of Directors approves the report dated January the 27th, 2021 on the proposed board and staff member fee policy for conservation area use. Mover and a seconder, please. Kevin and Frank Canis, is there any questions, comments, concerns? Al Broad, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Chairman Joe. Yeah, I guess this policy maybe concerns me. I don't think the appetite's out there today to have perks for board members, especially when a lot of the board members didn't even know that this perk existed, I guess. I don't think there was any, anything that was involved with this decision back a number of years ago. But I do think it's a decision that we should rethink. I don't think it's fair to give out perks anymore. I don't think the public is there wanting to see perks given to board of directors or that kind of stuff. And I will be opposing the motion on it. And if we could I have a recorded vote on that too, please?
Okay. Is there any questions or comments concerning that? I have one question. Is there a lot of board members and staff taking advantage of this? Brian, go ahead.
No, if this is this is something that has been in place for a long time. Greg, in his second year undertaking this job, wanted to more or less clarify. Let's get it down on paper. We're not dealing with something that's, just been a handshake type of thing. There are the few users of this are more the short-term staff that we get in the summertime. So not necessarily our seasonal staff, but without question the short-term staff that are only on with us for a couple of months in the summer. There are a couple of staff that have in the past had sites at the campgrounds, and certainly, although that's not their job to be there, etc. Both when we've had those staff there and when we've had board members that have been campers as well, it does provide a different input and a different insight for not only the board members, but also staff. And you have more bodies around that provide a better awareness of what goes on. But I certainly understand the sentiment put forward.
Just another question, I guess, Brian, regarding the passes that we get. Is that through Conservation Ontario, or is that through the individual conservation areas?
That is through it's a Conservation Ontario program, but realistically, those are it's locally done. So those passes that you get are through us, but do provide you with an opportunity to look into other areas. There's a few more limitations on that with the newer ones that we've received. So there are areas that are being withdrawn from those passes as well in other areas.
The motion that we're dealing with, is that a deal with those as well, or just the camping part of it?
At this point, we're just dealing with the proposed board member and board and staff member fee policy.
Okay, okay. Al, go ahead.
Yeah, and I'm not opposed to the staff. I definitely understand what Brian's saying there, and I'm definitely not opposed to that. And I'm also not opposed to the Conservation Ontario with their passes. I think it's a great idea for them to give the opportunity to different conservation members to go around the province, and that they happen to be there to see how they do things and stuff like that. And maybe I should ask that we pull out the seasonal discount rates for board directors and leave the other the way it is. I don't have a problem with the staff or the Conservation Ontario passes. I don't have a problem with those two.
Okay, can we get you to do an amendment to the motion then, Al, to do that?
Yes, you bet.
Okay, so if Ashley or somebody wants to wordsmith that, but I think we have the intent of that. Is there a seconder for Al's amendment? Okay, Mike Stark, okay. Is there any other comments, questions regarding that? Okay, is there any opposed to Al's amendment? Seeing none, we have a mover and a seconder for that to accept the motion as amended. Are there any opposed to that? Seeing none, the motion is carried. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, was the request made for a recorded vote?
Or did you want a recorded vote on that, Al?
On the board reduction, I want a recorded vote, not on the staff and the Conservation Ontario.
Okay, well, the amendment is part of that total motion now, Al. So does that not cover it?
Then let's go with the recorded vote on that.
Okay, go ahead then, Ashley, if you want to do a recorded vote.
And just please explain to everybody what that means, what the motion is meaning now.
Yeah.
I understand that the motion will be amended to remove the reduction of seasonal fees for board members or staff members. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Okay. I will record the vote. For or against, please. John Brennan.
For.
The
dog saw it.
Al Broad.
I think the dog said yes.
I think it's my dog.
Was what? I'm sorry, Al. Was
yes.
your vote? Pat Brown.
Yes.
Terry Burrell.
Yes.
Bill Dennis.
Yes.
Larry Gordon.
Yes.
Aaron Hall.
Yes.
Frank Kennis.
Yes.
Brad Loosely.
In favor.
Betty Ann McKinnon.
In favor.
Kevin Marriott.
Yes.
Nettie McEwen.
Yes.
Mark McGill. Oh, I'm sorry, Mark is not with us today. Dan McMillan,
Yes.
Steve Miller,
Yes.
Frank Nemchek.
Yes.
I don't believe Lori Scott was able to join us today. Just checking. Lori, are you there? No. Mike Stark,
Yes.
Jerry Westgate, and Joe Foss.
Yes.
Thank you. That would be unanimous.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Okay, I need a mover and a seconder that the Board of Directors acknowledge the report dated January the 27th, 2021 on the updates to the seasonal camping policies and regulations, golf cart rules, and seasonal camping refund policy documents, and further approves the updates and permits staff to implement minor updates in the future years. Mover and a seconder, please. Okay, Terry Burrell, seconder. Jerry Westgate, questions? Any opposed? Seeing none, motion's carried. I need a mover and a seconder that the Board of Directors acknowledges a report dated February the 11th, 2021 on the NDMP funding intake 6 and direct staff to work with member municipalities to obtain the required matching funds and continue to improve the flood forecasting and warning program. A mover and a seconder, please. Terry Burrell and Dan, is there any questions? Any comments? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, I need a mover and a seconder that the Board of Directors acknowledges a report dated February the 11th, 2021 on ongoing status of water and erosion control infrastructure projects and further approves the projects submitted for funding in 2021, 2022, and further will assist staff in obtaining matching funds where required to support these projects upon confirmation of funding approval. A mover and a seconder, please. Steve, seconded by Terry. Any questions, concerns? Mike, go ahead.
Yes, with respect to the applications, I'm a bit confused as to, have we received go-aheads from all of the various municipalities? My understanding is that these projects require matching funds from the respective municipalities. Now, if we're going to go after the approvals after the fact, how do we know, presuming that they're approved by the province, how do we know that the various municipalities are in a position to have pre-approved these, or do we get pre-approvals?
Brian, can you help us out with that?
I'll maybe let Girish respond to this one, Mr. Chair.
Okay, hi Girish.
Hello, through you, Mr. Chair. That's a fantastic question. Thanks for bringing that up. Some of the projects that have been identified on the sheet is those shoreline projects, and these are heavily funded projects. And we do have municipal approval for those, as we have an opportunity to work with the staff on a weekly basis. We do meet them along the shoreline, so we do have approval from a staff level for some of those bigger projects, and I'm talking about the shoreline projects here. The other projects are usually repeat projects, like the Head Street and the Coldstream decommissioning study, the Arder Dike study, and the engineering inspection are repeat. And what I'm trying to mention here is we have been applying for funds for those projects in the last 3 or 4 years. And we have had the opportunity to discuss it with staff on those specific projects, but we do not have a confirmed approval from the staff or the municipalities on those projects. The couple of projects that got included in the last moment was the Highland Land, and again, what we're trying to do is see if there are any funds out there that we can bring in, and we can go ahead and seek municipal approval after the fact. And if the municipality is okay with it, we will move ahead with the work. If not, we can always table the project for later.
Go ahead, Mike. You continue on.
Yes. Okay, Garesh, that is exactly the direction that I was concerned about, or following up on my previous questions relative to Highland Land. Will Plimpton, Wyoming be providing matching funds, presumably if this is approved? And secondly, if it is not approved by Plimpton, Wyoming, because my understanding is that this was a regional project, again, why I opposed it. But again, this would be concerning to me that the ball is rolling down the hill. If the snowball is rolling down the hill and gathering momentum, if this were to be approved. And it's almost a cart before the horse routine until we know what the total costs involved of the total project. Why would we be trying to secure funding when we don't even know if the project is going ahead?
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Again, like I mentioned, the project Highland Land was really included at the last moment. And what we are trying to do is go after any potential and possible funding sources that are there. And at this point, not knowing what the exact costs are going to be for Highland Land, I do understand that there are some challenges with this work. But at the same time, if we are going to be bringing that $100,000 through WICI grant, there is also an opportunity that the board may not wish to move ahead with the project because we may not have the matching funds. These funds, specifically the WICI program, is on a timeline basis, and we have to apply by February 19th, 2021. So again, we just wanted to put in an application and see where it goes and seek direction from the board as to if we want to move ahead with such projects.
So I don't have a problem with moving ahead with the application, or quite frankly, the approval, as long as we get pre-approval from Plimpton, Wyoming, that they're the ones that are going to be providing the matching funds, just as Sarnia, just as St. Clair have done. It seems to me that this is a project that needs to be supported by the area municipality.
Terry, you had a question? Okay, Larry?
No, mine's been answered. Thank you.
Okay, Brian?
I certainly understand where Mike is coming from. This is one of those rocks that we continue to turn over looking for dollars. I would love to. I actually give a lot of credit to Karish for applying for the broadest and most possible funding that we could acquire for this program. It's very limited funding, and last year, until we had leftover dollars within the program provided to us late in the year, we didn't even receive anything. It's important in this particular one to get a project on the list, because the longer it is on the list, normally the greater the opportunity is to receive funding. So not having if we didn't put it forward, we might be, degrading our opportunity even in the future. I certainly understand Mike's concern, and also with this funding, as I said, last year we got some leftover dollars that weren't able to be spent in other places. It would not be something that we would be required to spend if we cannot match it with funding derived from other sources.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Brad, did you have your hand up earlier?
Okay. No, I'm okay. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Al, go ahead.
Thanks, Chairman Joe. So Brian, just to clarify, if this money is approved and we do not use it, and we decide not to move ahead with the project, that we do not have to spend that 100,000, okay? Does it affect though our status with this organization when they dole out money? If they dole out money for different projects and then you don't start approving them, does that put us in a different status with them where they say, oh, heck with you, we give you approval last time and you didn't move forward with it? Is there a concern of that happening, Brian?
No, I don't believe so in this case. And the reason I say that is because there are multiple other conservation authorities who have turned dollars back. It's not you don't get a black eye or anything for doing that.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other hands. Is there anyone else that has a comment? Go ahead, Terry.
Yes, that's not on this item, but just generally, when you announce what we're going to, can you name the item? The reason is that now we're kind of off the chart. And so it would be helpful if I knew exactly what, which report we're dealing with by identifying the number. Like, I think right now we're at 17.5. So just for my own personal sake, and maybe others might want that as well.
Can you help me out there, Ashley?
That is correct. We are dealing with 17.5 at this point, yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, I thought you wanted more on that. Sorry about that. So, okay, is there any other comments, questions? Okay, is he opposed?
Mr. Chair, if I might, through you to Garish, when would we expect some indication of what kind of money would be on the way to us through this wiki program?
Through you, Mr. Chair. The wiki committee usually meets to discuss the projects in March, and we should know something by mid-April 2021 for these projects.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions from anyone? Seeing none, is there any opposed to the motion? Seeing none, the motion's carried. Okay, I need a mover and a seconder that the Board of Directors acknowledges the correspondence from the Town of Petrolia dated December the 15th, 2020 regarding the St. Clair Region Conservation Authority's 2021 budget and Bill 229, Protect, Support, and Recovery from COVID-19 Schedule 6 Conservation Authorities Act. Moved by Brad, seconded by Bill. Dennis, is there any questions? Are any opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, is there anything under new business that anyone wants to bring up? Al, go ahead.
Thanks, Chairman Joe. Recently at our council meeting, we had requests from the Bergsma family. They suffered a considerable loss there in the fall. Not only the Bergsma family, our entire community did. Their son decided to commit suicide. He was under some mental health issues. Great young lad, young farmer, was a husband, was a son, was definitely well respected out in the community. He was also one of our volunteer firemen. Really well respected in the volunteer fire department. During his funeral, there was miles of firemen that lined up alongside the road on a cold day to pay their respects. So it definitely hit the fire community, the volunteer firemen, and definitely hit our community as a whole. So in conversation with them, apparently they came to the council, came to council staff looking for approval to put a retreat in their bush to try to help with the mental health issues. This is funding, or going to be funded by the Bergsma family in memory of their son. So they came to council, came to staff, staff moved them on to Lambton County Planning. The planner said, well, you got to go to St. Clair Region to get their approvals. And apparently the answer was no. So they're not very happy right now, as you can well imagine. I think But if you look at the area that they want to put this is in a 50-acre bush. They want to take a 1 or a 2 acre spot and not clean it out by any means, but they want to cut a few trees down and put a little retreat in there to try to deal with the mental health issues that's definitely being involved in the agricultural community. We definitely know that our first responders are under definitely mental health issues. We know it's a big problem. We know that there's not the resources out there. We know the infrastructure isn't out there. And here's a family that wants to move forward with this project and are being denied the opportunity even to have the St. Clair region to look at it. So, you know, this family farms 1,000 acres. They, for the last 15 or 20 years, have been doing no-till practices. Last 5 years have been using cover crops. They are excellent, excellent environmental people. They are definitely stewards of our land. And for them to be refused to take a 1 or 2 acre spot, make some adjustments to it to put a retreat in there that we can possibly see where it's going to save people's lives. And so I'm just putting the board on notice that they have got a bunch of letters of support coming in. MPP McNaughton has supported it. There's numerous fire departments. There's numerous doctors. There's numerous people that are supporting their cause. They are going to be contacting board directors because that's where the decision of no come from, was the St. Clair region. So it sounds like they are going to be contacting the board directors. So I just wanted to help you out by put you on notice that that you could be receiving some correspondence from them. And maybe just to help the situation out, I think what really needs to be done, and I'll make it as a motion, that the board of directors direct St. Clair Region Conservation Authority staff to work with the Township of Donia-Femia staff, Lambton County planners, to come up with some solutions or options for this project. And I think it's an important enough project. It's one that I've never heard tell of before. Any of the correspondence we're receiving said, well, there's nothing available around anywhere that they know of a project like this. And I think for the initial project, I think that we should be able to not charge the initial fee that we charge. Let's just see if we can get this project up and running. I think it's a project where the environment and humans can easily get along. They want it in the bush because they want the people to go back there that have some mental health issues, allow them to unwind and enjoy the environment. And hopefully we save one life that's very significant in our eyes and in their eyes. So I want to make that a motion that staff move forward and that a report comes back to us at our next board meeting, please.
I'll be happy to second that.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Who was that, Bill Dennis?
I'll second that. I'll be happy to.
Okay, great. Okay. Okay, Brian, you had a comment, and then Terry.
Yes, actually, so this at this point, this isn't even an application. This was, you know, questions that were brought forward to us. And certainly the location as identified is one of those places where we've got concerns that it's not only, yes, in a woodlot, but it's also potentially a wetland. And not only not putting the focus on protecting the wetland, I really don't want them developing in an area where they're going to see this building, concrete pad, however it's constructed, and we haven't seen anything more than the description of a cabin in the woods. But if it's more than that, I'm concerned that there's going to be soil stability there to be able to see the structure stand for a period of time. Because if it's wet, it's quite possible that it can be not necessarily in the floodplain, but wetlands do collect water that they hold in ephemeral pools in the spring that might impact the building. So there's a lot of support with authority staff for this project. It's the definitive spot that they're looking at is the concern, and different staff have talked to them about you know, what other options would be. And I know that Melissa Deisley, and Melissa's on Zoom with us. Melissa has offered to go out and meet with them and, you know, potentially try and look at other areas where there maybe isn't that same issue. I know that this is a pet area. This is a particular area that they want. And I just want it, and we just want it to be successful.
Terry, you have a question, sorry, and then Al.
Yes, there is a group at the, I think it's called the Keith Reed Conservation Authority up near Lindsay. And they have sort of an area that is especially set up to help people with mental problems, or not necessarily, but just to help everybody improve their, because they say that being in a forest is actually very good mentally for everybody. And they have a special thing set up there in that one. And there's actually a couple of parks that do it also in the city of Markham. And I can give you some information on it for this report to come back. But I think it might be a very good thing for us to do, not necessarily on a private lands, but if we could set up something like that in a conservation area where generally people have an opportunity to go and first of all, you can just wander the forest, or there are different, almost like classes that they have where people go in and experience, and so they talk about the soil and they talk about what is there. And it seems to be a very, very good mental program. So if it's okay, I would like to maybe suggest that part of this report maybe identify that somewhere within the Conservation Authority, we have some lands that might be better adapted to this, and as opposed to a private. And I understand because of these people would want it for their own memorial sake, but in terms of mental health, it probably is good for almost any community to have something like this. And so I will pass on some of the information I have. And there's this one lady in particular I was talking to who is from that conservation area that I think can be very helpful in doing something like this.
Al, go ahead.
Yeah, and thanks, Chairman Joe. And thanks, Brian, for that update on that information. And that's basically what I'm looking for in this motion, is that staff work with them, come out to the site, look at it. It's a 50-acre bush or a 40-acre bush. It's not all wetland.
No.
The site they have picked is actually a part of the bush that doesn't have many trees or anything in it, which is a great option. I've walked it personally within the last 2 weeks. To me, it's kind of up on a knoll. It's a great idea. I don't think we need to worry about soil stability, and I'll guarantee you they're not looking to put it in the middle of a wetland where it's going to flood all the time. You know, that isn't what they're looking for. And that's very encouraging, Brian, and I want to thank you and your staff if you'll just take the time and come out. I know this is, for me, a very unusual request, but the more that I'm looking into it and the more that we understand what's going out there in our communities, it is by far the most significant issue that we have today that we're dealing with, by far even more important, in my opinion, than the COVID. So that's all I'm looking for, is I want staff just to go out there and actually take a look and say, yep, you know what, maybe this spot's here, maybe we could remove 10 trees, and maybe you got a spot over there where you can plant 25 trees to replace the 10 that you took out. That's what we're looking for. And thank you very much, Brian, for offering that up. But yeah, that's what my motion is all about. I just want you to be able to work with them, work with the township staff, because there is some other planning issues that the township would have to deal with also. But again, of course, it starts with the St. Clair region. Thank you.
Okay, is there any other comments, questions? We have a motion on the floor. Seeing no hands, is there any opposed to Al's motion? Seeing none, the motion's carried.
Thank you.
So, is there any other new business to be brought before the board? I don't see any, so I guess I need the last motion, a mover and a seconder, that we adjourn to the next regular meeting. Mover, okay, Terry and Brad, Any questions? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you, everyone, for your participation today. I look forward to serving you as your chair for another year, and everyone stay healthy and stay safe. And hopefully before long, we can get back to personal contact meetings. Mike, go ahead.
Just a question to you, Chair. Do we have a tentative list of the executive meetings dates?
I'm not sure whether we do or not. Brian, go ahead.
It is set up at the call of the chair, but traditionally it's only been one meeting a year, Mike, and it's 2 weeks in advance of the AGM to see and hear the report of the auditor. We do a few other things at that meeting, but that's maybe the focus of it. So it's normally in early February. Excuse me.
Okay. Any other comments before we vote on the adjournment? All in favor of adjourning? All opposed, sorry. Carried. The meeting's adjourned. Brian, you had a comment?
I was just going to ask Bill to hang on for a couple of seconds.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Stay safe, everyone.